Demonstrations erupted after a 22-year-old woman died Friday while being held by the country's so-called morality police. Her crime, violating the country's strictly enforced dress code. Since then, human rights groups report at least 8 people have died in the unrest. As the protests continued, Iran's President Ibrahim Raisi addressed the UN General Assembly in New York Wednesday, but President Biden also spoke. He voiced support for the protesters, saying they are fighting to secure their basic rights. For more on this, let's bring in Hadi Gaemi. He is the executive director of the Center for Human Rights in Iran. It's a New York-based advocacy group. Hadi, what exactly are the protesters calling for here? Is it the abolition of the morality police or the end to the Islamic Republic in its totality?
Well, it appears to be all of the above. And this protest shouldn't be looked at as an isolated incident, but as an evolution of a protest movement over the last 5 years that has grown bigger and bigger each time. And this time it really looks like the entire country is inflamed, outraged, and demanding change. What they're really calling for is that they're really tired of the status quo and the fact that the ruling elite have none of their concerns or grievances in mind, and they're just running their own show as if Iran has no people whatsoever. So people are on the street, especially women, to say we exist and we have basic rights and we want to reclaim them.
How do you put in context, a lot of people may remember the Green Revolution of 2009, those protests. Remind us the size of those protests and put these current outbreaks in that context.
Yeah, they definitely are related. And in 2009, the grievance was very specific when it looked like there is some kind of political plurality in Iran, and they were questioning the outcome of election and saying the elections were stolen and wanted to have a recount and installment of what the majority of people thought should be the president. That was at a time when we had something called the reformist faction in Iran, and the candidate that was being supported by the people was a candidate that represented the reformist faction of the Islamic Republic. In the ensuing decade or more, we have seen politics in Iran completely disappear. A very, very small clique of hardliners who have huge economic benefits and advantages want to keep the status quo at any cost. And people have been protesting since 2016. And each time they've been killed, repressed, put in jail. But each time we see it, it keeps coming back out due to some kind of event. And this time it was the killing of a young woman by the morality police. And young Iranian women are on the forefront of it.
As you mentioned, crackdowns in the past have squashed protests, and the Iranian President Raisi seems like a pretty tough guy. Leslie Stahl asked him on 60 Minutes when she interviewed him if he regretted taking part in a commission that was responsible for executing up to 5,000 political dissidents. And let's listen to his answer.
They were assassinating people, and what happened to them was exactly proportionate to what they did.
So what does that answer suggest to you about his response to this unrest?
Well, I'm very sorry, but I'm very well versed in what he did in 1980s. He has committed crimes against humanity. He is a perpetrator of crimes against humanity. And he's not a tough guy. He's just an unchallenged guy who hasn't really been in any forum where he has been challenged. And he is talking about 5,000 or more political prisoners who were already in jail, who were already prosecuted and given different kind of prison sentences. Many of them even had finished their sentence and were due to be released. And he and a group of hardline clerics went on a rampage, killing them, executing them extrajudicially. So his excuse is not at all what happened, and history will judge him.
All right, Hadi Gaemi, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for that.
Properly wearing her headscarf. Here's Martha Raddatz. Tonight,
protests raging across Iran over the suspicious death of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini while in police custody. Amini arrested last week by Iran's so-called morality police, who say that she was wearing her headscarf improperly. She reportedly collapsed and fell into a coma at a detention center and was later pronounced dead at a local hospital. Iranian authorities denying accusations that Amini suffered blows to the head during her arrest, saying it was a heart ailment that killed her. But her family disputes that claim, as do the thousands of Iranian women taking to the streets. Videos filmed by demonstrators show women burning their headscarves or hijabs and cutting their hair. Clashes between police and protesters turning deadly. At least 17 have been killed. President Biden addressing the protests on the world stage.
We stand with the brave citizens and the brave women of Iran who right now are demonstrating to secure their basic rights.
The administration going further, saying the morality police are responsible for Amini's death, imposing sanctions on them as well as several senior leaders, quote, for abuse and violence against Iranian women and the violation of the rights of peaceful Iranian protesters. Today, the ultra-conservative president of Iran, Ibrahim Raisi, in New York, pressed by ABC News on the killing of Amini.
What are you afraid the world is going to see?
Saying he has assured her family that the incident is being investigated, adding that deaths in police custody are not unique to Iran.
That was quite a moment there today. Martha Raddatz joins us now. And Martha, you and I have both reported from inside Iran. You were there again just months ago. You've spoken with Iranian women often in that country, their push for freedoms, their rights. Tonight, protests now 6 days straight. How significant is this?
It's very significant. A senior State Department official called the protests really extraordinary. I have noticed in the past few years, women in Iran really testing the limits with the headscarves, pushing them back further. So this was bound to come to a head. But the Iranian authorities, as you know, David, do not tolerate protests. So this could get bloodier in the days to come. David?
Martha Raddatz, who's been to Iran so many times for us. Martha, thank you.